Time keeps on leaving and we keep on moving. When do we pass on our wisdom to the youth? My veteran story, lost arts discussions, fireside chats with a bourbon or two. It's time to hear the stories by our military veterans. Get yourself ready. It's the Lost Arts Podcast. The Lost Arts with Andrew Cox.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast. That podcast has given a voice to our veterans. On today's episode, we have a My Veteran Story with Marine Master Gunnery Sergeant Retired Bill Browne. But before we get into that episode, are you enjoying the podcast and consider becoming a TLA patron? That's a Lost Arts patron. It is through donations that we are able to continue recording the podcast and getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Just go to the Lost Art website and click on the Become a Patron link at the top. If becoming a TLA patron doesn't work for you and you would rather give a one-time donation, then go to the Lost Art website and scroll down until you see the donations link. Any donation is appreciated. And if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, then email me directly at thelostartwithandrewcox@gmail.com. And as always, we do have merchandise for sale. We have cups. I'll demonstrate here. There's a cool little cup. Yeah, all right. We got cups, we got hats, we got all kinds of goodies. But if you want to help support this podcast and go get some merchandise, just go to the website, click on that merchandise tab. All right, with that, I got Bill Browne, Master Gunnery Sergeant Retired here. Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's good seeing you. I'm excited to have you on. I love the background that you have going on there. It definitely.
This is specifically for this. I don't have a man cave or anything, but I figured nobody wants to just look at me, right? So some stuff up here just to take your eyes off my face.
All right. I like it. All right. Hey, Bill, let's go back to the beginning for you. Like, where did you grow up, and then kind of what led you into military service?
So I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. Born in Atlanta, but at a young age, 2 years old or so, the family moved to Jacksonville, Florida. So I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. Went to school at the beach. Had a great junior high school band director that ended up going to be the high school band director, and when I went to high school was again my band director. So I had him for 5 years. Lee Ponder, just an incredible director, incredible musician. So I grew up in Jacksonville. Went to Mayport Junior High School, Fletcher Senior High School, and learned music under Lee Ponder and my private instructor, Dale Blackwell. Just a phenomenal trumpet player. Had probably 7 really, really good trumpet players in high school as his students throughout the Jacksonville area. And we always competed against each other for various positions in like the all-state band and that kind of thing. So it was very competitive. Very, very good fostered environment to learn to play the trumpet and be competitive and audition and that kind of thing.
Right.
So from a musical standpoint, I was pretty well grounded in music and knew that that's something that I wanted to do.
Very nice. All right. And then so I'm assuming you were taking all the top spots and everything, competing against your buddies. That's what I'm going to.
Yeah, off and on. You know, the interesting thing about high school band was you could challenge at any time someone above you. So you were always either fending off challenges or challenging someone. So there was every 2 weeks I was either challenging someone or being challenged for that position. It was really interesting. I don't think there's anything like that nowadays. I don't have kids in high school band or anything, but I would be surprised. But it definitely made you stay on the game and work really, really hard. And yeah, I mean, I played lead, and, you know, but it was which of the leads are you, and are you doing the solo or are you not doing the solo kind of thing? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. All right. And then throughout your high school career, when was it that you started looking at the military service, or was that even later?
It was later. So
okay.
I went to Florida State University on trumpet scholarship to become a band director. I knew I wanted to do music, and at the time I thought I wanted to be a band director. various reasons through college, I learned that band directing wasn't going to be something I wanted to do. Not that I didn't enjoy the idea of conducting or the idea of teaching. It just came evident to me that that wasn't something that I was going to graduate in a couple years and start doing. So I did 2 years at Florida State University, left without any kind of a degree. Because when you do music as a degree, you don't get your associates first and then focus on music. You focus on music for the full 4 years, and you end up taking those first 2 years courses to get your 4-year degree throughout your whole 4 years. Right. So I left college with nothing, went back home, and I worked 3 jobs. I was a carpenter. I worked at the grocery store, and then I know it was 3 jobs. I think the other one might have been lawn care or something like that. I was working really, really hard as a 21-year-old. And, you talk about what made me go into the Marine Corps. After about a year and a half of that, I realized that I'm not going anywhere. This is not how successful people do things, right? And it wasn't, nothing really drove me to the Marine Corps, okay? I went to the recruiting office and went right to the Air Force. And I was like, I need direction. Air Force looks pretty cool. My older brother, I'm the youngest of 4, my older brother's friend had joined the Air Force and had been an air traffic controller. Now at this time I'd been working 3 jobs and I wasn't playing. So I had been about a year and a half off the horn. And so the idea of, I didn't even know that the military had music. That's how I guess naive or uneducated I was. It didn't dawn on me that I could do music. So I went to the Air Force recruiting office, and they were like, well, right now we're not even hiring. So it would be about 6 months before I could do something. And I was like, well, that's just not going to do it for me. Right. So then I walked to the next, and when I walked into the recruiting station, you open the door, the very first office is the Marine Corps. And they were ooh-rah and yutting and pushing each other around. And I was like, man, those guys are crazy, right? And I looked to the left, and it was the Navy, and they were in their Cracker Jack uniforms, the bell bottoms, and they just didn't look cool. Didn't look cool to me. And I had already planned to go to the Air Force, so it was just like, oh wow, there's Marines, those Navy cats. And then I turned right. I walked right past the Army to the Air Force, and went from the Air Force right to the Army. And I opened the door, and the gentleman behind the desk was, let's just say, less than inspirational. All right. And he stood up. I won't say what was happening, but he stood up off his chair and was like, hey, and he was super excited to see me. And I was like, sorry, wrong room. I mean, immediately I knew that I should not have opened the door.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was like, oh man, this means only one thing. There's no way I'm wearing a Cracker Jack uniform. That's just not me. Nothing against the Navy, but that just isn't going to do it, So I walked into the Marine office, and they were super excited to see me. But the young guys there that were on recruiter's assistants, talked to me and showed me a video. And I was like, do you guys have air traffic controllers? They said, absolutely, we have air traffic. We got airplanes, we got air traffic controllers. Yeah. So my focus was still being an air traffic control guy. So I went through the process of, signing all the paperwork and just getting things ready to go to MEPS. And right now I couldn't tell you what that is, because I never did recruiting as a Marine, and I just don't remember what any of that paperwork would have been. But I was of age, I was 21 years old and didn't need mommy or daddy to do anything for me, right? So next thing I know, I'm going to MEPS, and at MEPS, all of it's going good. The ASVAB I had taken was great. I had good scores. The medical stuff is going well, and I get to the eye guy, and he's like, okay, down at the end of the hallway are 2 lights. One of them's white and one of them's green. Which one's white? And I'm looking down at the end of the hallway at these 2 little lights for the colorblind test, and they're both white.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, 50-50 here. The left one? And he's like, nope. And I was like, and being colorblind, you can't be an air traffic controller. Okay. So I didn't know that, I didn't realize I was colorblind. So the guy that doesn't realize he's colorblind, ends up, and I'm not fully colorblind. Apparently white, green colorblind or whatever. But
Yeah.
the recruiter was like, "Hey man, no problem. So you can't be air traffic control. There's a ton. You had great scores on the ASVAB. There's a ton of things you can do." And I said, "Well, I don't really want to do some of these other things." He's like, admin, supply, maybe intel, and I'm like, what do you guys, is there a band? He's like, what? Yeah, there's a band. I'm like, the Marines have a band? He's like, yeah, we got a band. We got tons of band. Do you play? And he's super excited. And he's like, dude, if you play and you audition and you pass, I get 2 of my quotas filled for 1 guy. So if you play, I said, well, I haven't played in a year and a half. And he goes, man, go home and get on the horn. So he scheduled an audition up at Paris Island. I don't remember the director at the time, but it would have been 1989. I could probably dig it up, but so I practiced and practiced and practiced, and I prepared. It didn't take me long to get back. In 5 days I was playing some of the Hummel trumpet concerto, and I had all my scales nailed down, major, minor, all that kind of stuff at tempo, and I was pretty confident that I was going to do pretty well. Because again, college scholarship. I played for many, many years, and all those times auditioning, I knew how to prep. So we drive up to Paris Island. He's a little nervous, and I'm like, I think it's going to be fine. So we get there, and when we get there, it's Friday, morning colors. The band's marching off in Alphas to go do morning colors. And I was like, that's pretty cool. What in the world are they wearing on their belt? The music pouch, right? I was like, what in the world is that? So we park and we go in there, and the band officer's in there, and he's like, okay, let's go in that room and get warmed up. And so the recruiter's talking to the band officer, and I'm warming up, and he walks in and he goes, hey man, you passed. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, man, you're good to go. Let's get out of here. I'm like, I didn't audition. He goes, he heard you warming up. He said, you're fine. Because I was going through major minor scales. I was hitting all the octaves. I was doing the chromatic scale. And then I went over a little, and I was like, well, I have a prepared piece. He's like, so? I'm like, dude, I prepared a piece. Someone's going to listen to me play this. And he goes, are you telling me as a staff sergeant, I have to go into that captain and ask him to come in here and sit down and listen to you? And I'm like, yeah. So
I like it.
I said, it's not a long piece. I just feel like if I came to audition, darn it, I want to audition, right? So
yeah.
He came in, graciously sat down. I played Hummel trumpet concerto, first movement, and he was like, hey man, that's great. Congratulations. Good job. I think you're going to be fine. So that was my audition for the Marine Corps story.
Wow.
A recruiter was super excited. Got 2 quotas filled. We went back and I started to PT and get ready for that was physical anyway. I had done triathlons. I was a cyclist, but not a whole lot of pushing and not a whole lot of pulling. So that's the kind of stuff I had to work on.
Wow. Very cool. Okay. So how much longer was it before you actually shipped?
It wasn't long at all. I want to say September 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, probably the 9th. I was on a bus headed to Paris Island. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a quick turnaround.
It is. Yeah.
So how was boot camp for you?
So again, not knowing anything about the military, hearing people tell me stories about how I was going to get killed, how I wasn't going to make it. My dad, I'm the youngest of 4. I'm the baby. Although I was physical and stuff, he felt like I wasn't going to be prepared for this. And my dad was a pretty tough guy. And my older brother, he had told my older brother, man, they're going to kill Billy. They're just going to kill him. I just don't know what's going to happen here. He was concerned. Never told me that, but he told my brother that. So I go to boot camp, and I have no idea what I've gotten myself into. Get on the yellow footprints. Here's receiving. Here's all the stuff you're going to carry around for a couple of months. Cut all your hair off, and man, it was like the guy beat me up. Putting that bam, bam, bam. I didn't have a lot of hair, but it was gone, and I had scars up there from getting a haircut. Right?
Yeah.
The first 2 weeks was crazy because there were guys that were like, "Hey, man, I found out we're going to 3rd Recruit Battalion. I heard that's the worst." And one guy, and this is not made up, one guy broke his own arm so that he didn't have to go to 3rd Recruit Battalion. He went into the medical, to get that, and then was later shipped. I think he was 2nd Battalion when he got out. But that, people hear things and they get themselves all super, super crazy worked up. And then this was the time when you couldn't smoke any pot, right? And I never did, but there were guys in there that were like, man, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. So they're trying to weed out everybody that's just, you got 90, 110 guys in your initial platoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sit in a room and there's these Marines asking me questions. How many times have you smoked pot? And I'm like, never. Come on, what? Never. Not, and I couldn't believe it. So I walk out of there and there's one guy that didn't make it. One guy didn't make it back, and he had told another guy in the hallway that all he said was 6 times. All he said was he smoked pot 6 times.
Wow.
So we get to into our recruit. We finally get to 3rd Battalion, 3101 Platoon 3101 Lima Company, and our drill instructors are introduced. And it's like it's pretty funny because they're like, is anybody in here a Christian? I raise my hand. Okay, so no foul language. No, if you're offended by foul language or this, that, or the other, it's not going to happen. I'm like, oh, and that's interesting, right? And then the senior left, and the two workhorses went to town on us, and there was, of course, nothing but foul language. But it's just one of those things. You just have to, you have to be there. You have to get through it, and they're yelling at you. You're getting to your rack. You're learning how to make racks. They're throwing footlockers all around and stuff. It was interesting. I think we graduated about 85. I ended up being an honor graduate.
Nice.
My dad had told me, dude, don't volunteer for anything. Don't do it. And of course, I was a little older than most. I was 21, going on 22. I turned 22 in boot camp in December. Where's I going with this? Oh yeah. So I'm just one of the dudes back in the squad. I'm tall, so I'm like kind of in the middle-ish front of the squad. But the squad, I was in 3rd squad, and my squad leader, we're doing drill. We're learning drill to get ready for a competition, and we're doing the whole column of files from the left, hold fast, stand fast, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my poor squad leader, strong, nice, but and he, I mean, he, not that he was not smart. He just, drill was not his forte,
Yeah.
And he could not turn his head to the right, say stand fast, and then say forward march when it was time to get in line and go, right? Maybe 5 times. And each time he messed it up, we went and dug in a pit, and then came back out with sand all over us and did it again and failed and dug in a pit. And they were yelling and screaming at everybody and how awful we are. And how come nobody can do this? And I said, from the middle of the platoon back there, sure, this recruit can, sir. And they parted the platoon. They were all over me, and they said, listen up. You're going to get up there and you're going to do this, and you got 1 shot. And if you mess it up for the rest of the entire day, all we're going to do is dig. No more training, no more knowledge. We're going to dig, right? Talk about pressure. So, and everybody's looking at me like, oh, we're going to kill you because we're going to be digging for the rest of the day, right?
Yeah.
So we get up front. I get up front. I trade place with a squad leader, and we do it, and I nail it, and we finish the movement, and we just go on as if nothing ever happened. The rest of the day, we're still marching, we're still drilling, we're doing other stuff. And from that moment on, I was 3rd squad leader.
Nice.
And then later on, something happened weird. I'm not really sure what it was or how it happened, but I was guide. After that, I was guide. And then near the end, on the day that all the families come and talk to the drill instructors, they meet them for dinner and stuff. The guides all go see the company commander, and the company commander's like, "All right, this is a safe space. Tell me what your drill instructors did. Did you get hit? Did they yell at you? Anybody say any bad language? and they're trying to get you to dime out the drill instructors. At least that's my take on it, right? They want to
Yeah.
see who is going to talk about their drill instructors. Not that their drill instructors are going to get in trouble, just which one of these guys is going to squeal, right?
Right.
And so they get through interrogating me about that. And of course, everything was great. They were fantastic Marines. They were fit. They were smart. They were leaders of, the best leaders I'd ever met in my life. Because I had a feeling that if I said something when I got back, they still had me for another couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't that I didn't get pushed around or hit or knocked on or shoved down or yelled at or any of that kind of stuff. It was just all in the course of becoming a Marine, right? So
Right.
then they started on, okay, who in your platoon shouldn't graduate? There's got to be 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that aren't very good physically. They're not smart. They're not trustworthy. There's got to be guys that can't graduate or that you think shouldn't graduate. Give us those names and we'll make sure. Which I thought was really strange, because I was the last guy that knows what a Marine should look like and what a Marine should be, because
Yeah.
I wanted to be in the Army, right? So I didn't say anything about it. I said, hey, everybody, we're all here. We've made it this far. We're all passing the BFT. We're all good. We work together well. I think we've got a good team. And so I go back to the barracks, and it's lights out, and I'm asleep in my rack. And at some point in the middle of the night, both of my drill instructors, hand over my mouth, wake me up, right? And they were a little drunk, but they said, hey man, we got to hand it to you. I mean, all of the other recruit guides squealed. They talked shit about their drill instructors. They told them people in the platoon shouldn't graduate. You were the only one that didn't say anything about anybody, kind of a thing.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, and they would go, oh, and since when were you a guaranteed E3? Since when were you guaranteed Lance Corporal? And I was like, I'm a musician. And they're like, yeah, well, that's not going to happen. Because a guide's going to be, no, I'm sorry, it was guaranteed PFC.
Yeah. Okay.
And if I had got PFC as a musician and then was guide and honor graduate, I would have been a Lance Corporal.
Right.
And they said, that's not going to happen. So you pick one or the other. And I said, well, I'm going to pick PFC from being a musician because I'm still in that program. I didn't want to pick one and have them go, well, I guess you're not a musician anymore. I just didn't know if that would happen or not. So I graduated guide PFC. I was super happy. Got dressed. The only guy to get dressed blues in the platoon was a guide at the time.
Right.
So then, of course, graduation day was interesting. Dad showed up, mom showed up, family showed up, and super excited. And Dad was probably just like, how in the world did you graduate? But that was that. And I went home on recruiter's assistance for a month. Then went to MCT at Camp Geiger, North Carolina, which was where you have a bunch of corporals in charge of you. And, it's the weirdest month of the whole thing. And then from there, I went to the School of Music in Norfolk.
And then how did you enjoy the School of Music? I mean, you already had a degree, stuff like that. Or no, you didn't have a degree.
Well, not a degree. Yeah, not a degree, but I had the education.
Yeah.
So because I was a good trumpet player, they ended up tasking me a lot with bugle jobs. So I was out of school, I don't know, once every 2 weeks for an entire day.
Oh, wow.
Just in a van, headed off for 3 hours to a place to go do the bugle taps for someone, a veteran,
Wow.
Marine or Navy or Army, whatever. It was all different services. So yeah, I was out of school a lot. I still graduated second in my class, but I have a really, really cool bugling story if you want to hear that.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I get picked up by a van, normal, and I'm like, so where are we headed? He's like, somewhere in North Carolina. So we're in Norfolk, Virginia. We're going somewhere in North Carolina. He said the directions are really strange though, because it starts talking about at the tree, dirt road. He's like, so I'm not even sure if we're going to find this place. So it's just me and the driver. And I'm like, there's no rifle party. He says, yeah, they didn't request a rifle party. They just needed a bugler. I'm like, okay. So we drive hours, and sure enough, we're on these dirt roads and a couple of wrong turns. And is the bus or the van going to get stuck or not? We get to this house, this little white house in a nice yard, kind of literally like there's nothing around, right? And there's a hole dug in the front yard, and there's a pine box casket, like a homemade pine box casket, right next to the hole in the front yard of this house. Yeah. Underneath a giant oak tree, like, I mean, a giant oak tree. And we get there, and there's like nobody there. So we're just kind of waiting, and then people start to show up out of nowhere.
Right.
And old women, couples, kids, there probably ends up being about 60 people there in the yard that gather around, and it starts to get organized, and a pastor shows up, and the pastor is going to do, the service, and he says, hey, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to say something. She's going to play Amazing Grace on the violin. When she's done with Amazing Grace on the violin, while she's doing that, we're lowering him into the hole. All right. When she's done with that, you play taps. I'm like, okay, what do you want me to stand? Just right over there, 10 feet over there, 10, 20 feet over there. So I'm just like by the front porch. They're 10 or 15 feet in that direction, and so I'm just like, this is weird. So sure enough, he preaches. She plays great on the fiddle, Amazing Grace, like a country fiddle version of Amazing Grace. It was really, really nice. They lower this. I mean, it was pretty rough getting that casket down into the ground. And I'm at attention this whole time, horn up, snappy. I play taps, do a great job on taps, bring the horn down, I salute, and then I just about die because I didn't realize it. I didn't see it. I wasn't looking for it. But at the minute I saluted, everybody pulled out a weapon. Everybody had a gun.
Oh my God.
I'm not kidding you. And they started just firing rounds.
Wow.
Limbs were falling, little branches and sticks and leaves were falling, and it was the loudest thing. And I'm just like, it was loud. I was unexpected. It startled me. And then they were hooting and hollering, and then it was a big party. And everybody came over, shook my hand, thanked me for a great job on taps, and the driver and me, we got in that van and we headed out of there. And I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to see anything like that again in my life. That was wild. And he's like, you're telling me, boy, that was crazy. So that was a very, very interesting, in my top two bugling, the top of my top two bugling stories.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and it was a Marine. It was a Marine tracker. He lived in North Carolina, and he took people on hunts. He tracked animals and took people on hunts. That's what he did for a living. Yeah, Vietnam vet. He got buried in utilities.
Wow.
Open casket, probably died, I don't know, 89, 90, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody loved him, and really, really neat guy. From what I no idea what his name was. They don't give you that information. But I did learn that he was a tracker, and everybody loved him, and he did well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So you finished at the School of Music, and then what happened there?
So I went to 29 Palms, California, the high desert.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest with you, Bill. Your story is very similar to my story.
Okay.
Except I grew up in Oklahoma, but I too went to college for a little bit, was going to be a director, decided, no, it's not for me, worked for a while, joined the Marine Corps at 21.
Yeah.
And then my first duty station was 29 Palms as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What year were you there?
99. So I got there late 99.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I was
there for about 2.5 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was in Italy at the time. Okay. I got there in 89. I was 10 years before you. So when I arrived there, it was a D&B that had been turned over into a band. So at the time, back up 6 months, and it was a D&B.
Right.
Captain Trowan shows up to be the band director. Gunny Conti was the drum major, and Philip Covington was the bandmaster.
Okay.
And they were going to turn this into a band. So they sent a bunch of staff NCOs over there that were band guys that could play and knew about band. and any DNBer that stayed wanted to be in the band, had to, play a 3-valve horn.
Yeah.
Or, and there were a couple of them that stuck around, and then they started to send young guys from the school there to fill out the rest of it. I think I was the third or fourth like Lance Corporal type to show up. Patrick Sachs was there. Let me think. Bill Trowbridge was there, drummer. And then Becky Sachs, Patrick and Becky got married. She was there. So they were sending some woodwinds out there to kind of fill that stuff out. Doug Morris was my section leader, along with it'll come to me in a little bit. Anyway, so I was at 29 Palms, did 3.5 years at 29 Palms. I did a lot of bugling jobs at 29 Palms. I spent my non-working hours, my weekends and my holidays out doing bugle jobs. So part of it was the staff NCOs were like, yeah, we're not doing that. And the other part of it was there weren't many young guys to be tasked with that job. And then I was good, so I could play without messing things up. And then that's what I did. I see your McAxie drumhead over there. I had one of those. I auctioned it off at a Marine Corps Musician Association auction.
No kidding.
I had one of those. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's cool. Yeah, there aren't many of those out there anymore.
No. That's the old one there. So it's they had a newer one that had an Eagle Globe and Anchor, I think, on it or something.
Yeah.
Before they
when the Marine Corps when McAxie or whatever it was went away. Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center. Marine Corps Air Ground Combat. Yeah. So I mean, we did a lot of jobs, big band stuff, marching, obviously at headquarters. The only green spot in the whole place was the lawn at headquarters there. So big band, not a lot of symphonic stuff, but we would do a concert or two out in town. Amboy's right near there, as you know, and I ended up renting a duplex, one side of a duplex on Amboy Road.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And it was down about a 1/4-mile dirt road, the driveway, the only thing down the driveway. And I can remember having the door knocked on at like 2 a.m. and there would be like a group of motorcyclists out there going, "Hey man, where's so-and-so?" And I'm like, they don't live here anymore. Oh, you want to party? No.
Very nice.
And they were nice enough to go, drive away and not stay. But that was quite an experience. So my number 2 bugling job story is from 29 Palms.
Okay.
And so I was always just there on an off day. Everybody else is going off and doing what they want to do, and I'm standing there with my trumpet waiting for a van to come pick me up. So the van doesn't show up, and I'm like, if I leave and the van they could be running. 30 minutes goes by, 40 minutes goes by, an hour goes by, and I'm like, I'm just gonna leave. And then the van shows up, and I mean, it shows up like swerves into the parking lot. Guy's like, get in. I jump in and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, man, I took the rifle detail there. We forgot you. They're like, it's getting ready to go. And we've got 45 minutes.
Oh, no.
He punched it. We're doing 100 miles an hour in a government van down these, you know what the roads are like out there. They're straight and there's nothing. Straight and nothing. And you would look at the intersection. No, nothing's coming, and just right through the intersection. So we're flying. And I'm scared, and I don't want to die. And this guy's like, man, they told the family they were super sorry. They didn't have the bugler. And I was like, maybe I can get him and get back in time, right? So I'm like, okay, here we go. So we're driving. We get to we're getting to the cemetery. And I'm just like, well, I might need to really run out of this thing and go to a tree and just play. So I'm going to get my horn out and I'm going to be ready. As we pull up into the big circle driveway, there's a circle driveway, there's a building, and then behind that building is where all the cemetery is. So as we're pulling up, no one sees us come up because they're way off back at somewhere at a gravesite. We know they're at the grave site. We don't know how long the preacher's been preaching. We don't know how long it took them to get out there. All we know is they're at the grave site. They might be done, and they might have just started. So windows are rolled down on the van. We're driving up into the driveway, and we hear, pow! And we look at each other, and we're like, is that the first, the second, or the third volley? Pow! And I'm like, I'm getting ready. I'm like, stop the van. He stops the van. My window's down. I've got the horn like this, and I'm waiting. I wait just long enough, and then as loud as I can play, seated from the inside of the van, I play taps as loud as I can play taps, as beautifully as I can play taps. Okay, I play taps. I look at him, and he's like, "Let's park." Right? So we park, and we just kind of waltz on in there, and by the time we get in there, they're coming in from the grave site, the Marines, and they have this look on their face like, that was what happened. And so they see us, and they're like, was that, I've got the horn in my hand, was that you? I'm like, well, yeah. And they're like, we thought it was a ghost. We thought it was a ghost bugler. And I'm like, well, we rolled up and we heard a volley. There were only two. I wasn't sure. Did it take too long? Did they go like, no? By the time he saluted, bam, taps came on perfectly. Beautiful. It floated over the trees, in through the family. Everybody was just wide-eyed and chills everywhere. Just, oh my gosh, right? The family comes in, and they were like, we were so upset that there wasn't going to be taps. We were just so upset. You know, it's amazing that you guys made it there. And the fact that it came like it did as a big surprise to everybody made it even more special. So that's my ghost bugler story on how I played taps from the seat of a van in a parking lot at the perfect time. And the driver, made it happen. Had he not just tried to come get me and get us there, of course we broke every law on the road there was, but that's, you get it done. You don't give up.
Yeah, that's right. Never quit. That's good.
Right.
Well, we're hitting about that hour mark right now, but I think we'll leave off on the ghost trumpet story. I think that's a good one, and then we'll come back for part 2, and then we'll carry on with the rest of your career.
Sounds good.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, to all the listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for listening to Bill's story. If you're out there and you're struggling and need some help, you can always dial 988 and press option 1. That's going to put you in contact with somebody at the VA that's going to help you out and get you in contact with somebody to be able to help you through whatever issues you have going on. If you would prefer to text, you could always text 838-255. Again, that's 838-255. And same type of thing, they're going to be able to put you in contact with somebody to help you. Or if you'd rather go online, you can go to veteranscrisisline.net, and there's a chat icon. You can click on that chat icon. All of those options, it's all anonymous. You just tell them what it is that you feel like telling them. But from me to you, one veteran life lost is one too many. I know Bill feels the same way. I feel the same way. All the veterans out there, we want what's best for you. So please, please, please reach out for some help. Bill, thanks again for being on the show. It's a good time. And to all the listeners out there, stay motivated, change your socks.